Punctured.com here to talk about what progressive Jews don't know about the Orthodox. See, there's a lot of myths that run around on both sides of Orthodoxy and non-Orthodox Judaism, and I want to dispel a few myths that I think progressive Jews maybe have or don't understand about Orthodox Judaism. So here's number one. First of all, there's different kinds of Orthodox Judaism. And we tend to think, if you're walking down the street, of an Orthodox Jew as, a guy with payas who's wearing all black and, looks like he's a Polish nobleman from the 18th, 17th century, and that's not what Orthodox Judaism is. That's one particular kind of Orthodox Judaism. And there's all different kinds. It's just like in progressive Judaism. We have Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, and even within you'll have Conservadox or Reformative. You'll have different ways of doing it. It's the same thing in Orthodox Judaism. Sure, you have Chabad, which is one of the largest, Orthodox organizations, but they're not the only one. There's lots of different kinds. And also, there's lots of different kinds of Orthodox Jews. You have Orthodox Jews of different races, of different ethnicities, of different cultural backgrounds, things like that. And they're all different, and all of their cultures are unique. No two Orthodox people, just like two non-Orthodox people, are going to be alike. There's another thing, which is that Orthodoxy is somehow sexist and racist and homophobic and things like that. And that's not really true. There's going to be sexist people or homophobic people or racist people in any kind of institution. That's just the way it works. Orthodoxy in and of itself isn't, though. There's another problem that progressive Jews have with Orthodoxy, which is the idea of the mechitza, the wall, the separation between men and women during prayer. And really, we make too much of it. The idea behind the mechitza is not this hatred against women or this exclusion of women. What it's really about is the same thing with gender-divided bathrooms or gender-divided dorms or things like that. It's this idea that you're going in to do a specific thing and that you don't need distraction, and it's distracting for men or distracting for women. You have this separation so that you can just focus on what you're doing. That's really why they have the mechitza. It's not because, they hate women or want to keep men away from the women or anything like that. It's just a divide. It's just like going into a gym locker room. You go in there, you don't see anything that particularly interests you. You go get changed and you go do what you have to do. It's the same thing with the mechitza. Now, progressive Jews don't like the idea of the mechitza, but we just do things differently. Now, another thing is that Orthodox Jews don't really care about progressive Judaism, and by that I mean Orthodox don't sit around and think, well, gosh, those progressive Jews, they just don't know what they're doing, and rah-rah-rah, and stuff like that. I've never heard of Orthodox Jews sitting around talking about anything like that at all. It's not true. Actually, it's quite the opposite. I find progressive Jews like to talk smack about Orthodox Jews more often than not. The next thing is that there are Orthodox outreach organizations that are trying to develop Bala Teshuva or trying to encourage people to convert to Orthodox Judaism. And they're not trying to do it because they think that they're right and that everyone else is wrong. It's not a, heaven versus hell kind of thing, obviously. It's because Orthodox Jews who are involved in these organizations believe that that's really the best way. They think that that helps a person to develop better and to be a more spiritual person. It's not because they hate free thought or anything like that. It's just that's their way of doing it, and they found that it works for them, and they want to encourage other people to try it their way. It's the same thing with Punctura. We're trying to create an open environment where people can learn and grow with each other, whether they're progressive or Orthodox or somewhere in between or nothing. And we want you to grow in a way that you think is best. So we have our particular bias, and they have their particular bias. And finally, Orthodox Jews don't hate modern culture. There's a belief that, Orthodox Jews don't like anything that's going on in America. They don't like movies. They don't like TV. They don't like anything like that. And certainly there's going to be people who don't want to watch certain kinds of shows. Maybe they have nudity or lots of violence, things that don't particularly interest them. But, Orthodox Jews are just like anybody else. They go to movies, they listen to music, whatever. And maybe they have tastes that are a little bit different because of their religious beliefs. But for the most part, they're just as much a part of American society, of modern society, of world society as we are. You have certain people that like to separate themselves. They live in these sort of shtetl-type communities, and, they don't go to movies, and they don't listen to music, they don't go to rock concerts. But that's, like I said, one particular kind of orthodoxy, which is very different than the majority of Orthodox people. So I hope that clears up a little bit of confusion about what an Orthodox Jew is, and maybe helps you to, love each other a little more.